I didn't think much of it at first. My wife started taking her phone with her everywhere, even just to the kitchen. Then, one afternoon, I happened to see her outside a cafe, pacing nervously, phone pressed to her ear, and I heard her say, "It's almost ready. We're starting fresh soon." That's when my stomach dropped. 2 weeks later, she served me divorce papers. But the crazy part? That was never the real plan. I wasn't supposed to know what was happening. I was supposed to be caught off guard, left scrambling while she took everything. What she didn't expect was that I had already moved first. And when her plan blew up in her face, she didn't just lose the money, she lost everything. You might think this story can't be real, but if you've ever loved someone enough to trust them with your whole life, and then watch that trust get used against you, then maybe, just maybe, you'll understand. This isn't just a cheating story. This is how I turned betrayal into a plan of my own. I thought I was building a life with her. Turns out, she was building an exit. I used to believe that when you love someone, right, when you really showed up every day, they'd never have a reason to leave. That's how I loved M. We'd been together 6 years, married for 4. Nothing fancy about us, nothing wild, just real laughs, real struggles, real late-night grocery runs and Sunday morning pancakes. We were the couple who held hands in checkout lines, who argued about movie genres, who made fun of each other's favorite coffee orders. She used to tell me, "You're my safe place." And I believed her. I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. You know the kind. The I never saw coming stories. The I gave her everything stories. But here I am. And yeah, I didn't see it coming. For most of our marriage, it felt like we were in sync. She planned elaborate date nights, little themed evenings with homemade decorations and playlists. I'd surprise her with sushi takeout after her rough days. We had our rituals. Coffee in bed on Saturdays, driving out to nowhere just to talk and listen to music, stupid jokes that only made sense to us. I even kept this little notebook where I'd write down things she said she liked or wanted, just so I could get it for her later. People say the red flags are always there. Maybe. But when you love someone, you don't look for red flags. You look for ways to understand them. 6 months ago, something changed. Nothing huge, just a shift. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. She was more tired, I thought. Work was stressful, I thought. Life just gets heavier sometimes, right? She started taking her phone with her more often, even to the bathroom. That wasn't normal for her. Before, she'd leave it lying around for hours. I'd pick it up to check the weather or play music, and she never cared. One night, I made a dumb joke. "What are you, working for the CIA now?" She just laughed and said work had been emailing her a lot lately. Fair enough. But then, a few days later, her phone suddenly had a lock screen. That was new. And weird. She brushed it off with some excuse about hackers. I let it go. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband, the paranoid one, so I didn't press. I wanted to trust her. I chose to trust her. Still, little things kept stacking up. She started stepping outside to take phone calls. She'd say, "It's just a friend from work," but she never used to take calls outside before. Then, she started leaving her phone face down on the table. Not always, but enough for me to notice. It's funny the way your brain picks up on patterns before your heart is ready to accept them. You see it, you feel it, but you don't want to believe it. I tried to be understanding. I asked if everything was okay. She'd smile, tight, polite, and say she was just stressed. I offered to plan a weekend getaway. She said she was too busy. I brought up our anniversary, asked if she wanted to do something special this year. She just said, "We'll see," and changed the subject. I miss the way we used to talk, how she used to look at me, that glow she had when we were just driving somewhere, anywhere. Now she just looked distracted, like her body was here, but her thoughts were someplace else. Still, I kept showing up, making dinner, folding laundry, asking about her day, believing, stupidly, that if I just kept being solid, she'd come back around. Then came that Wednesday. She said she was grabbing coffee with a friend after work. No big deal, she did that sometimes. I happened to be running errands in the area, so I thought, why not surprise her? Maybe it'd be a cute moment, like the old days. But when I pulled up to the cafe, she wasn't with anyone. She was outside, pacing, talking on the phone. Her face looked tight, serious. I stayed in the car. I didn't mean to listen, but I caught just a few words. "It's almost ready. We're starting fresh soon." I sat there frozen. I had no idea what it meant, but it didn't sound like work. It didn't sound like coffee with a friend. It sounded bigger, like she was planning something. That night, when she got home, she told me all about how her friend was upset about her boyfriend. She had this story lined up front to back, and I remember thinking, damn, she's practiced this. It wasn't a casual lie, it was polished. A few days later, she brought up our finances out of the blue, wanted to combine account info, passwords, everything. She said it was just in case, emergency planning. But we'd never talked about that stuff before. We always kept things casual, even separate. Suddenly, she wanted everything in one place. I nodded, said it was smart. But my gut was screaming. I wanted to believe it was nothing, that she was just being grown up and practical. But then I remembered the phone calls, the secretive coffee meeting, the distance, the lock screen, the way she didn't look at me anymore. Something was wrong, and it wasn't just in my head. But still I hoped. Still I waited. Still I told myself, you're probably just being dramatic. Because when you love someone like that, you'd rather lie to yourself than believe they're lying to you. It was just a feeling at first. Then it became a pattern. After that day at the cafe, something in me shifted. I didn't bring it up, not directly. I still wanted to believe the best in her. But once a seed is planted, it grows. And man, did it grow fast. I started paying closer attention, not snooping, not spying, just noticing. The kind of noticing you do when your gut is telling you the house is on fire, but there's no smoke. Yet, every time her phone lit up, I saw her glance at it, then flip it face down. Not always, but enough times that I couldn't ignore it anymore. She used to be so open. She'd laugh at my texts, show me memes, ask me to take dumb BuzzFeed quizzes with her. Now, that screen was a wall. And it wasn't just her phone. It was the tone in her voice, the way she answered questions half a second too slow, the way she'd say, "Nothing's wrong," but her smile didn't touch her eyes. Once, we were cooking dinner. She was chopping veggies, I was stirring a pot, and she suddenly asked, "Hey, do you know where we keep the title for the car?" Random. Out of nowhere. I looked up, confused. "The car? In the drawer with the tax stuff, I think. Why?" She shrugged. "Just wondering." Just wondering. Sure, like, just randomly wonder about car titles in the middle of taco night. Another time, I caught her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, looking focused. Not like she was on Instagram or Pinterest, more like she was reading something carefully. I asked what she was looking at. She locked the screen fast and said, "Just checking my schedule," but she wasn't on her calendar app. I know what that screen looks like, and yet, I said nothing. That's what gets me when I look back. I stayed quiet. I kept waiting for her to give me a reason not to be afraid. And she kept giving me reasons to be afraid. We stopped talking about the future. I'd say stuff like, "Where should we go for our anniversary?" And she'd brush it off. "Oh, I don't know, we'll see." She used to love planning things. She had a Pinterest board full of dream vacations and cheesy cabin rentals. Now, nothing. Then came the second conversation about our finances. I was in the kitchen making a sandwich. She was scrolling her phone again. Always that damn phone. And without looking up, she said, "Hey, have you thought more about organizing all the bank info? Just, having it in one place?" I set the knife down and turned to her. "Why do you keep bringing this up?" I tried to keep my tone casual. She blinked, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we've been married 4 years. This has never come up before. Why now?" She looked me in the eye. First time in days, and said, "It's just smart. What if something happens to one of us?" Her voice was calm, too calm, like a rehearsed answer. A line she'd practiced. I nodded, but I didn't believe her. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing her words over in my head. What if something happens to one of us? What was happening was already happening, and I didn't even know what it was yet. A few days later, she brought it up again, same line, same script, only this time she added, "It's important to have transparency in a marriage." That one stung. Because up until then, I had been the transparent one. I couldn't take it anymore. So, the next day, while she was at work, I logged into our joint account. Nothing huge had changed, but I noticed a few odd transfers. Small amounts, $50 here, $100 there. Not to our usual bills, not groceries, not anything that made sense. Just gone. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe she was helping a friend. Maybe she was buying gifts early. Maybe. But maybe doesn't feel like safety. Maybe feels like walking across a frozen lake, hoping you don't fall through. That night, I stared at the ceiling, asking myself the question I'd been too scared to ask. What if she's planning to leave? What if she's getting ready for it? And worse, what if she thinks she can take everything with her? I remembered something she said months ago, maybe a year back, when a friend of ours had gone through a nasty divorce. That's why I'd never leave unless I was sure I'd be okay after. No way. I'm starting over with nothing. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now it echoed like a warning shot. Still, I didn't confront her. I wanted to believe there was another explanation. Maybe she was just stressed. Maybe it was work. Maybe she was depressed and didn't know how to tell me. But when someone's drifting away from you and they don't want to talk about why, the silence becomes its own kind of answer. So I did the one thing I never thought I'd do in my marriage. I reached out to someone for legal advice, a buddy from college who now practices family law. I didn't even know what I was asking. I just said if someone was preparing for divorce behind your back, what would it look like? He listened. Then he said, it sounds like she's getting her ducks in a row. I didn't want to believe him, but I asked, what should I do? He told me what no husband wants to hear. Start protecting yourself. Quietly. He walked me through steps, legal steps, ways to safeguard my assets, ways to transfer ownership without setting off alarms. It felt wrong. It felt like betrayal, but it also felt like survival. That night, I sat at the kitchen table staring at a blank legal pad, trying to list everything I'd need to move. Bank accounts, the house deed, the investment portfolio we started last year. I remember looking at our wedding photo on the wall, the one where she's laughing and I'm holding her hand, and I felt sick. How the hell did we get here? A month ago, I was planning our anniversary. Now I was planning how to legally protect myself from the woman who used to fall asleep on my chest. She hadn't filed for anything, not yet, but something was coming. And this time, I wasn't going to be the one caught unprepared. She thought I'd sit there and let her take everything. She was dead wrong. I didn't move everything overnight. Couldn't. That would have raised red flags, but I started. While she scrolled on the couch or took phone calls out on the porch, I sat quietly at my laptop with spreadsheets and legal docs open in another window. Transfer this, rename that, lock this down. Little by little, I pulled our life apart. Just like she was doing, only I was more careful. I moved our investments into a trust under my mother's name. I changed beneficiaries on the insurance policy. I shifted the house title quietly, legally, irrevocably. I kept enough in the joint account so it wouldn't look suspicious, just enough to keep up appearances. On the outside, I was the same husband, cooking dinner, taking out the trash, watching sitcom reruns beside her. But on the inside, I was preparing for war. And the whole time, she kept smiling like she had the upper hand, like I was clueless. That's the part that stuck with me. Not the lies, not even the betrayal. It was the confidence she had, that I'd never figured out, that I was just some fool she'd outmaneuver. I didn't say a word. Not when she brought up transparency again. Not when she asked if we should start keeping documents in one place just in case. Not when she kissed me goodnight like we were still okay. I played dumb. I played safe, I played husband, and then 2 weeks later, she sat me down on the couch, turned off the TV, and said, I think we should get a divorce. Just like that. Calm, cold, like she was asking if we should switch internet providers. I remember the way my stomach dropped, but I didn't show it. I just nodded like I'd been expecting it, because I had. She launched into her monologue about needing space, finding herself, feeling like she'd lost her identity. The usual script. Rehearsed, clean. Then came the kicker. You know I've made a lot of sacrifices for you, and I don't think you really appreciate them. I deserve more. That word more hit different. It wasn't about feelings. It wasn't about love. It was about taking. It was about entitlement. That's when I knew. She hadn't fallen out of love. She'd calculated her way out, and she thought I hadn't seen it coming. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I didn't ask why. I said, if that's how you feel, I guess we should figure out next steps. She blinked, surprised, maybe even disappointed, like she wanted a scene, but I gave her nothing. 3 days later, the divorce papers came in the mail. Thick envelope, full demands. She wanted half the house, half my savings, the car, spousal support. She made more than I did. It wasn't about fairness. It was about punishment. Bleed me dry and walk away with Jake or whatever his name was. I knew there was someone. I didn't have proof yet, but I felt it. Still, I didn't lose it. I handed everything to my lawyer, told him, just wait. Let them make the first move. At mediation, her lawyer came in, like a prize fighter, folders in hand, smile on his face. He read off her demands like a shopping list. The house, the assets, the accounts, the support, all of it. I just sat there, quiet, watching her. She wouldn't even look at me. Then, my lawyer reached into his bag, pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Before we proceed, he said, there's some paperwork we need to review. Her lawyer opened the folder, flipped through the pages, and froze. I saw it happen in real time. That slow realization. The transfers, the trust documentation, the notarized dates. All weeks before the divorce filing. legal, bulletproof, final. He looked at her. You didn't tell me about this. She grabbed the folder, eyes scanning faster now, mouth slightly open. This isn't real, she said. Then she turned to me, voice cracking with shock and fury. You planned this. I just sat there. Her lawyer tried to argue, but the trust was airtight. The assets were already gone. Her plan, dead in the water. This isn't fair, she snapped. You knew I was going to file and you set this up to screw me over. And maybe she was right. Maybe I did set it up to screw her over. But you don't get to cry foul when you're the one who drew the knife first. She stormed out of that room like a fire about to consume itself. And I sat there, quiet, whole, free. I didn't burn her life down. I just stopped letting her burn mine. After mediation, I thought the worst was over. I thought she'd accept it and move on. But people like her don't walk away. They hover, they haunt, they hold on, not to love, but to control. The phone calls started 2 days later. At first, they were gentle. Can we talk? I just think we need closure. You're being so cold. This doesn't have to be ugly. Then came the guilt trips. I gave you everything and you did this to me? You're punishing me just because I was honest. And anger. Voicemails with screaming, accusations, tears, followed by silence, then more calls, more chaos. I didn't answer any of them. My lawyer told me not to, but even if he hadn't, I wouldn't have, because by then, I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't wondering what went wrong. I wasn't trying to save the marriage. There was nothing left to save. I don't know when it hit me exactly, but at some point I stopped seeing her as the woman I loved. She was just another person trying to rewrite history. And the thing-ish almost did. She almost made me question my sanity. Almost made me doubt every good thing I did for her. Almost made me feel guilty for protecting myself. But now, I see it clearly. She didn't want a husband. She wanted a fallback plan. She wanted to cash out, not just on our marriage, but on me. And when that plan failed, she tried to twist the story. Said the divorce was a test. Said it was a joke that went too far. Told our mutual friends I'd overreacted. That I'd blindsided her. That I was cruel. And some of them believed her, for a while, until the truth came out. A mutual friend, let's call him Matt, showed me screenshots, messages between her and a guy named Jake. Jake was the friend she kept mentioning. Jake was the one telling her what to say, what to ask for, how to push for spousal support. Jake, who posted a selfie from outside the cafe where I first overheard her say, "It's almost ready," Jake, who vanished the second things blew up. Turns out she wasn't just planning to leave. She was planning to take everything she could and step right into a brand new life with him. But the moment she realized that life wasn't going to be funded by mine, he disappeared. Her friends stopped calling. Her brother apologized to May, say he had no idea what she was really doing. She lost the house, she lost the money, she lost the fantasy. And I gained something I didn't even realize I'd lost. Peace. I moved back into the house, repainted, changed the locks, took down the wedding photos. My mom came over with a bucket of tools and a bottle of wine. We laughed, we cried a little, and we started fresh. I thought I'd feel angry forever. But now, I don't even feel hate. Just distance. Like remembering an old scar on your hand. It doesn't hurt anymore, but you know exactly how it got there. Sometimes, when I wake up in the quiet of a Sunday morning, sunlight coming through the window and coffee brewing in the kitchen, I just sit there, and I breathe. And I think, this is what freedom feels like. You know, for a long time, I thought protecting yourself in a marriage meant you didn't trust your partner. Now I see it differently. You can love someone fully. You can be generous, honest, devoted, but when their love turns into strategy, when their care turns into calculation, you owe it to yourself to stop playing fair in a game that was never fair to begin with. I didn't set out to win. I just refused to lose blindfolded. And that's the real lesson here. Not every betrayal comes with a loud crash. Sometimes it arrives quietly, carefully, smiling while it moves the furniture out from under you. So now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a relationship where something just felt off, but you couldn't put your finger on it? Have you ever ignored your gut and paid the price? Was what I did right? Was it too far, or was it the only way to survive? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Share your stories. Let's talk about trust, betrayal, and the quiet power of protecting yourself when nobody else will. This has been Leopard Tales, where truth doesn't just come out, it fights its way through the lies. If you made it this far, thank you. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. We've got more real stories coming, and I promise they'll make you feel something. Until next time.